Hey, welcome back to Scars Left Behind podcast, episode 22, Varsity Blues Ringleader and Demi Lovato reveals dark truth, along with some information on Serbia. In the past 2 years since authorities and the public learned about a decade-long college admission bribery scheme, we've watched high-profile participants like Loughlin and Felicity Huffman plead guilty, receive sentences and serve time for conspiracy to commit mail fraud and money laundering. But one conspirator has stayed notably under the radar. William Rick Singer, the mastermind behind the scandal, investigated in Netflix's Operation Varsity Blues. Singer, portrayed in the documentary by Stranger Things Matthew Modine, reenacting his wiretapped conversations with clients, made $25 million helping wealthy and powerful parents get their kids into elite colleges. In May 2019, Singer pleaded guilty to charge of money laundering, racketeering, tax evasion and obstruction of justice, and admitted to working with over 750 families in order to get students into schools like Yale University and the University of Southern California. Singer paid proctors to alter his clients' SAT scores, hired exam preparation experts to take the tests on his clients' behalf, and worked with several coaches to falsify, identify clients as recruited athletes to cover his tracks. He laundered money through a non-profit called the Key Worldwide Foundation. 11 coaches and directors were charged with accepting bribes of up to $1.3 million to submit candidates' names as sports recruits. Over 20 parents have been sentenced for their involvement in the operation. Singer, however, hasn't yet been sentenced. It's unclear when he'll go to prison, but his lawyer told USA Today that it will likely be sometime this year or next. He currently faces a maximum sentence of 65 years, that is 65, with 3 years of supervised release and a fine of up to $1.25 million. With 3 years of supervised release and a fine of up to the said amount. Today, Singer mostly avoids the public eye, although he's been spotted around Newport Beach, California, a couple of times, ironically as he awaits sentencing. Singer has decided to focus on his own educational pursuits. According to his lawyer, Donald Heller, he enrolled in Arizona's Grand Canyon University in November 2019 in an attempt to change his life for the future. During his time as a student, he was granted permission to travel between his home in California and Arizona, where he took psychology courses. Bob Romantic, a spokesperson for the school, told USA Today that Singer was no longer a GCU student as of July 2020. Since his company was exposed as a front, Singer has cooperated with authorities, helping the FBI elicit incriminating statements from his current and former clients via wiretapped calls. He explained to prosecutors that he pitched his services as an entry through a side door. A student enters through the front door, he said, by doing the work on their own. They can try to enter through the back door by making a donation, but they still aren't guaranteed acceptance. I created a side door that guaranteed families to get in, Singer said. According to the New York Times, so that was what made it very attractive to so many families, is I created a guarantee. And prior to this, I haven't watched the documentary. I haven't watched it. I may watch it, to get a better understanding of everything. But this is just a general overview. It amazes me how he still hasn't been sentenced, or if he has been, I can't find that out. But this needs to be stopped. But anyway, let's move on to the next segment. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that, mention that this is going to include a trigger warning. So please do bear that in mind. So if you are triggered by anything, then do please, take precautions. Demi Lovato has worked as a successful singer and actress since she was 7 years old. Her new YouTube documentary series, Demi Lovato Dancing with the Devil, however, delves into the darker period that ran parallel to her acclaim, a time in which she contended with mental illness, substance addiction and an overdose that nearly cost Lovato her life. The series, which premiered at the SXSW Film Festival on March 17th and will hit YouTube on March 23rd, is Lovato's third documentary, following Stay Strong in 2012 and Simply Complicated in 2017, and seems to have delivered on its promise of being her most vulnerable and honest yet. One of the most devastating moments of Dancing with the Devil is hearing the 28-year-old recount her July 2018 overdose. It was an incident whose after effects Lovato physically feels to this day, especially considering that she revealed that during the same night she claims she was sexually assaulted by her drug dealer. Again, trigger warning. Nobody in Lovato's life knew that she had relapsed after being sober for nearly 6 years. She began using methamphetamine and cocaine and ultimately became addicted to heroin. On July 23, 2018, Lovato had called her drug dealer and overdosed on a mixture of heroin and fentanyl-laced oxycodone. However, Lovato said in the series that she didn't just overdose. I was taken advantage of. Sarah Mitchell, a friend of Lovato's, added he ended up getting her really high and leaving her for dead. When Lovato's assistant, Jordan Jackson, found the singer the next morning, she was naked and completely blue. Jackson immediately called the head of security and 911, who transported the unconscious Lovato to Cedars Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. She came down with pneumonia after asphyxiating, entered multiple organ failure, and suffered 3 strokes and a heart attack, which caused permanent brain damage and blind spots in her vision that make her unable to drive to this day. And this is by Lovato. I'm really lucky to be alive, Lovato said. My doctor said that like I had 5 5 to 10 more minutes, and had my assistant not come in, I wouldn't be here today. It took a few weeks for Lovato to realise the full extent of what happened to her that night. When I woke up in the hospital, they asked if Lovato and her drug dealer had consensual sex. Lovato said, "There was one flash that I had of him on top of me. I saw that flash and I said yes. It wasn't until a month after the overdose that I realised you weren't in any state of mind to make a consensual decision." It's a lot to take in, but Lovato asserts that her difficult experiences have set her on a better path, and hopes her candidness in her series will help others who struggled with some of the same issues. "Everything had to happen in order for me to learn the lessons that I learned," she explained. At the documentary's recent Television Critics Association panel in February, "It was a painful journey, and I look back and sometimes I get sad when I think of the pain that I had to endure to overcome what I have. But I don't regret anything." And if you are struggling with substance abuse, then please call the SAMHSA National Helpline at 1-800-662-4357 for free and confidential information. If you have experienced sexual violence and are in need of crisis support, please call the RAIN Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE 4673. It's really important that if you are going through similar situations, it's important to reach out. If you are in the UK, then do please ring the Samaritans on 116-123. It's vitally important that you get the right help and support. Right, the next segment. Serbia's most famous citizen, the tennis champion Novak Djokovic, has been vocally cautious about vaccines. A government advisor on the pandemic told media last March that COVID-19 exists only on Facebook. When cases of measles spiked 3 years ago, authorities blamed the influence of a powerful anti-vaccination lobby. Serbia is an unlikely candidate for continental Europe's most vaccinated nation so far, but since January, the Western Balkans nation has raced ahead of most of the world, delivering more than 31 jabs for every 100 people. According to statistics from Our World in Data, leaving countries such as Germany, 13 doses per 100 people, and Canada, 10.8 doses in its wake, its success has illuminated the pockets of the country where suspicion of the vaccine is proving stubborn, forcing Serbian authorities to confront a question that might await others in the Balkans and Eastern Europe, where polls show that hesitancy to get the jab is a significant force. Once supply of doses outstrips demand, how do you convince sceptical communities to be vaccinated? Well, fewer than 8 vaccinations per 100 people have been administered. In Novi Pazar, the largest city in Sandžak, a rural region and centre for the country's Bosniak minority, despite at least 4 different vaccines on offer. I think it's too early to say the vaccine is safe, says Sermin Martinovic, 20, on the streets of Tutin, a town in Sandžak. Around the world, there are lots of examples of side effects, and there is also the question of which is the most effective. In my area, people are afraid. Misinformation is rife in a country the European Parliament has called a launchpad for Russian disinformation campaigns, and so is mistrust in a health system that, under the Cold War era, communist regime made mass vaccinations mandatory. Jabs for childhood diseases are still a legal requirement, but eschewed by many. There is a lot of half-truths on social networks, or blunt lies about the vaccines, says Irvin Kovic, a physician and head of health centre in Novi Pazar. We had to fight for years with people that did not want to vaccinate children. We got good results with that, but then the pandemic came and those anti-vaccine voices became loud again. Residents know what COVID-19 can do. Novi Pazar and the surrounding region have been amongst the hardest hit in Serbia, where about 4,900 deaths have officially been recorded, but the true figure is thought to be higher. An emergency situation was declared last July when hospitals exceeded their capacity. They were overcrowded. There was a lack of equipment in them, said Kovic. COVID-19 rates in the country are climbing again, and regional officials are racing to avoid another crisis, blanketing local media with advertisements for the vaccine, sending mobile teams to villages in rural areas, and easing bureaucratic requirements to receive the jab. Years of jostling for strategic influences in Serbia between China, Russia and Western Europe has translated into a bonanza of vaccine deals from manufacturers. We have more vaccines on offer than those who applied for them. The Prime Minister, Anna Brnabac, told media last week. Its President, Alexander Vucic, a bulldozing leader whose dominance of institutions that led a watchdog to conclude Serbia is no longer a democracy, has characterised the abundance of vaccines as a personal triumph. I am begging you people, call to get the vaccine, he said. In an address this month, we have them and we will have them even more. I am begging you, like a god, take it. In a country polarised by pro-European Union elements and those who favour Russia, the buffet of vaccines on offer has helped to overcome some scepticism, says Milan Kirstik, Associate Professor in Political Science, Belgrade. Whether people prefer the Eastern powers, like China or Russia, or Western ones like the EU or US, it plays into their choice of vaccine, he says. Vucic has said he will choose to take the Sinopharm formulation out of spite, to thumb his nose at EU regulators who are yet to approve the Chinese vaccine for emergency use. That vaccine have become so politicised and synonymous with one political figure is a source of concern for some public health experts who fear the early success of the country's vaccination programme may be obscuring a low ceiling, short of the 70% thought to be required to achieve herd immunity. It was important for the regime to show that Serbia has more vaccines than any other countries, but at the same time we have neglected the crucial part, educating people about the vaccine, says Zoran Radovanovic, an epidemiologist. Education about vaccine before mass vaccination is like artillery during the war. You start breaking the enemy's line with artillery, In this case, that would be education. But this has not been the case in Serbia. And if I were to go back for a minute to touch base back with Demi Lovato, whatever you think of her, you know, everybody's got their opinions, you know, about her, about how she has dealt with her, you know, issues, inverted commas, right? Unless you can relate, or unless you know what she's going through, then you have no right to judge. And I would hope that, you know, I understand what she goes through. You know, I understand how tough it is. Even more so when you're in the limelight. You know, it's even more. There's even more pressure, right? Because you are seen as this idol, which I'm sure she loves. Right? I'm sure she loves to be this. You know, I'm sure she loves being, you know, someone that young girls and young boys can look up to, right? But it's important to not hold these people to a high level, right? Demi Lovato has said this herself. She's not perfect, right? So I just think that for Demi Lovato to be so open and brave about how and honest in her latest documentary, she should be applauded. And you know, she works on her issues every day. You know, she's constantly working on them, right? She could have, you know, not done that documentary, right, and just kept it private, but she chose to open up, right, in the hopes of helping other people, and you know, I commend her for that. But switching back to Serbia and Novak Djokovic, you know, he is really concerned that a small section of people are not wanting the vaccine, you know, because of, you know, what went on, you know, under the regime, you know, of course, you know, that's understandable. But, on the other hand, they are saying, listen, please take it, right? But I think, you know, that's all I have for you for today's episode. Again, if you haven't listened to my first episode, then do check that out. Also like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Anchor, Acast, Breaker, and Spotify. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day, a great weekend, and I will see you in the next episode. See you later.